Father's Day used to mean something in our family. Even after Linda passed, I kept the tradition. Always hosted it at my place, set the table with her old china, cooked a meal big enough for a crowd. My daughter Cara would bring her husband Eric, sometimes a bottle of overpriced wine, sometimes just that smug smile like she was slumming it in my modest little house on Pelham Avenue. But I didn't mind. Not really. Not until this year. Before we get started, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. You won't want to miss what comes next. This year, everything changed. Happy Father's Day, Dad, Cara had chirped, breezing through the door in a dress that looked like it cost more than my first car. She air-kissed my cheek, her perfume smelling like expensive orchids and something colder underneath. Eric followed her in with the same forced charm he always wore. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that banker's posture and the handshake of a man who thought he owned the room. We sat down to eat. Roast chicken, green beans from my garden, mashed potatoes the way Linda used to make. The talk was light, empty, until dessert. That's when Cara pulled a lottery ticket from her purse, crumpled cheap, and tossed it across the table like a bar tab. "Here you go, Dad," she said with a grin. "If you win, remember, half is mine." She laughed, and even Eric chuckled like she'd told the world's most clever joke. I stared at the ticket, lying there like an insult on my mother's lace tablecloth. "Very thoughtful," I said, smoothing the paper with fingers that had rebuilt engines and held my wife's hand through chemo. $2, you shouldn't have. But she wasn't done. "Oh, but wait, Eric hasn't gotten his gift yet." She reached under the table, pulled out a box. Real velvet, not the fake stuff. I knew because Linda had once worked the jewelry counter at Macy's. You learn things. Eric unwrapped it slowly like he already knew what was inside. "Cruise tickets," Cara beamed. 2 weeks in the Mediterranean. First-class cabin, private balcony, spa access, all meals included. $13,000. "Wow," said Eric, inspecting the gold foil like he was already on the deck. "Now this is a real gift." The room got quiet. Even Margaret, my sister, set down her fork. My nephew Tommy blinked twice. Only Cara and Eric were smiling. Cara looked at me. "Eric's done so much for our family. Helped us with the house, Jake's school, the club membership. He deserves something special." "And I said softly, holding the lottery ticket, "get the chance to win something." Cara winked. "If you're lucky." That night, after everyone left, I cleaned up alone. The house still smelled like roast chicken, but the silence was louder than the ticking of the kitchen clock. I tossed the ticket on the counter and tried to forget the smirk on her face. The next morning, I made coffee and opened my bank statement, and froze. There it was, a charge to premium travel services. The exact amount? $13,602.47. I stared at the screen until my coffee went cold. Cara still had access to my account. I'd forgotten. Set it up years ago after Linda died for emergencies. I called her, tried to keep my voice calm. "There's a charge here, Cara, for a cruise." "Oh," she said, like I'd asked about the weather. "That? Yeah, I used your card. Eric really deserves this, Dad. It's not like you were going to spend the money." "You stole from me." She laughed. "Don't be dramatic. It's family money." "No," I said. "It was my money and you didn't ask." "God, you're so old-fashioned. You act like I took your pension. You should be happy for Eric." I hung up before my heart could say something my mouth would regret. That lottery ticket sat in my trash for 2 days. On the third morning, I pulled it out. Still crumpled. Still a joke. But I smoothed it flat and checked the numbers anyway. 7, 14, 23, 35, 42. Powerball, 18. I checked them again, and again. Then I sat down, poured myself a fresh cup of coffee, and smiled for the first time in weeks. I had just won $120 million. and my daughter was about to learn the value of respect. I didn't dance, didn't shout, just sat at the kitchen table staring at those numbers. $120 million. The ticket, smudged, crumpled, forgotten, sat between my coffee cup and the salt shaker. Before Linda passed, she joked that I never gambled. Except on lovin' old trucks, she used to say. I smiled at the memory. She would have laughed herself breathless if she knew a $2 ticket bought out of spite had just won the jackpot. I poured fresh coffee and started thinking. First rule, tell no one. Second, take back control. I called the lottery office. A woman named Cheryl confirmed the win and walked me through the process. Ticket validation, identity checks, taxes, all the usual. It'll take a few business days, she said. We'll contact you for next steps. I thanked her and hung up. My hands were steady. I logged into my bank, revoked Kara's access, set new passwords, filed a fraud claim on the 13th SC's $2 cruise charge. Then I closed the old savings account I'd opened in her name when she was born. $11,000 still sitting there. That account had been symbolic once. Now it was just another reminder of how far we'd drifted. I didn't call Kara, didn't text. Let her wonder why her shopping cart got declined, why the money dried up. Let her learn the hard way what it meant to bite the hand that fed you. The next day I called my sister. You win? Margaret asked, her voice sharp as always. I did. Silence, then a slow, impressed exhale. Well, that'll stir the hornet's nest. I need a favor, I said. Not money, just your company. When this gets loud, I want one person who knows the truth. You've got me, she said. What's the plan? I looked out the window at the tree Linda planted the year Kara was born. First, I said, we clean house, quietly. That night, I opened the cabinet under the sink, pulled out a bottle of decent scotch I'd been saving. Sat at the table, sipped slow, stared at the ticket. A joke gift. Bought with stolen money. Tossed at me like a bone for a tired old dog. I smiled. Not bitter, not angry, just calm. She wanted half? She'd be lucky to get silence. By Thursday, she'd noticed. My phone buzzed mid-morning while I was trimming the hedges. Kara. I let it go to voicemail. She called again an hour later. Then again texting. Dad, I think something's wrong with my card. Call me. Wrong indeed. At noon, she left a voice message in that sharp tone she reserved for waiters and contractors. I tried to buy something and your account's locked or something. Call the bank, okay? No, Kara, you call the bank. I made lunch. Tuna melt, chips on the side. Watched the birds scatter the lawn with crumbs I'd tossed. It was peaceful. The way life gets when no one's siphoning your savings while smiling in your face. By evening, she'd escalated. You changed the bank login? What the hell, Dad? Then, call me right now. We need to talk. I didn't. The next morning, my doorbell rang. I stayed seated, watched her silver SUV idle in the driveway from behind the curtains. She didn't come in. She never used to need an invitation. That afternoon, I got a new text. You're overreacting. We'll pay you back. Don't be petty. Ah, there it was. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I shouldn't have done it. Just a soft-shoe justification like her taking 13 grand without permission was a clerical error, an accounting hiccup in the story of her charmed life. I didn't reply. I did, however, start a file. Not digital, paper, tangible, proof. I pulled old bank records from the cabinet, started printing statements, highlighting transfers, notating the timeline. $2,800 monthly. 5 years of that, plus college tuition. Wedding costs, her first car. I added it up. $192,000 before the cruise, and the cruise made it $205,000. I labeled the folder Gifts with Teeth. That night, Margaret called. You going to tell her about the lottery? Not yet. You think she suspects? She doesn't know me anymore, I said. She only knows what I gave. Margaret paused. And what are you giving her now? I looked at the file on my table, the empty checkbook, the quiet house. Perspective. She showed up Saturday, no warning, no apology. Just a knock, then the screen door creaked open like she still lived here. Dad? She called out. We need to talk. I was in the living room, oiling the hinges on Linda's old cedar chest. I didn't get up. She walked in like it was owed to her. Designer sunglasses still on, phone in hand. Okay, she said. What is going on? I looked up. With what? With everything. The card's frozen, the account's locked. I can't access anything. The travel charge is under investigation. I got a fraud alert yesterday. I set the oil can down, wiped my hands. Sounds serious. Her mouth tightened. You're punishing me. No, I said calmly. I'm correcting a mistake I made years ago. She blinked. What mistake? Trusting you with access you didn't earn, letting you think my savings were communal property. Oh my God, she scoffed. It was one charge. It was theft. It was for Eric, for Father's Day. You're being vindictive. I stood. And you're standing in the house I paid for after 5 years of silent withdrawals, telling me I'm the problem. She laughed, cold and flat. You sound paranoid. This isn't elder abuse, Dad. Don't get weird. You used to call me your hero. That stopped her, briefly. I also used to think Santa was real, she said, voice softer. People grow up. I nodded. Yes, and some grow out. Kara's phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down, typed something quickly. Probably Eric, checking the status of their new reality. She looked back up. Are you really cutting us off? I already did. You'll regret this, she said. Maybe, I replied, but I'll regret nothing more than what I allowed. She stared at me, unsure for once, then turned and walked out. No hug, no fake goodbye. The door slammed harder than it needed to. I picked up the oil can and returned to the hinges. Everything squeaks when it's been taken for granted. Sunday came and went without a word, but Monday morning, the internet told me everything I needed to know. Kara had gone public. It started with a Facebook post, dramatic, vague, and tailored for sympathy. It's devastating when the people you love most show their true colors. After years of support, care, and shared family finances, I've been completely cut off by someone I thought I could trust. Prayers appreciated. Heartbreaking day. 62 likes. 100 comments. So sorry, Kara. You're such a good daughter. Some people forget what family means. I scrolled in silence, coffee cooling beside me. By lunch, Eric had joined in with his own spin. A LinkedIn post of all things. It's tragic when older family members fall prey to financial paranoia. My wife gave generously for years, support, care, logistics. Now she's being punished for trying to show love. We're not the villains here. That word, villains, sat in my chest like a brick. My phone buzzed all afternoon. Margaret, Tommy, even an old coworker from the plant. You okay, Steve? Thought you should see what Kara is posting. They're dragging you, man. I didn't respond, not yet. Instead, I went online myself, quietly. Opened an anonymous browser window. Searched claiming lottery winnings anonymously Ohio. Then I read the fine print. I had a choice. Private or public. Either way, the money would be mine soon. But the presentation? That part was up to me. I called Margaret. You ready? I asked. For the storm? For the statement. She hesitated. Are we going loud? Louder than them? That night, I printed screenshots. All of it. Kara's post, Eric's, the comments, the sympathy parade. Then I printed the receipts. Every bank transfer, every tuition payment, every cash out I made so they could live big and pretend I didn't exist. I laid them side by side on my dining table like pieces of a puzzle. Then I added one more page. The lottery ticket, a fresh printout of the winning numbers, confirmed on the state website. 7, 14, 23, 35, 42, Powerball 18. And the same ticket she'd tossed at me as a joke. The same ticket she now believed entitled her to half of everything. I leaned back in my chair and let the silence sit. Sometimes justice doesn't knock. It builds. Quietly, patiently. Then it kicks the door in. She couldn't resist. By Wednesday, Kara was on Instagram. A tearful video filmed in her car. Designer coat, perfect lighting. This is hard to say, but my father stole my lottery ticket. I gave it to him as a gift. But we had an agreement. He promised we'd split any winnings. Now that it hit, he's cut me off. He won't even speak to me. Please share. This kind of betrayal shouldn't happen in families. The comments poured in. That's disgusting. Lawyer up. Take him to court. You deserve half. I didn't reply. Didn't flinch, but I read every word. That night, my mailbox held something worse. A certified letter, intent to sue. Eric's name at the bottom, written like a brand. Inside, claims of verbal contracts, witnesses at dinner, and accusations of elder instability. A preemptive strike. Margaret called the minute she saw it online. You ready to burn them down? She asked. Not yet, I said, but close. Friday, I met with a lawyer. Someone clean, quiet, unimpressed by noise. He read everything, statements, screenshots, the lottery ticket. His advice was short. They don't have a case. The ticket was gifted, on record. Any claim they make is hearsay. Even with the social media storm? He nodded. Especially with it. They went public too fast. It weakens them. We filed a formal response within 24 hours. Then, I made my own move. I contacted the Ohio Lottery Commission, opted for a public ceremony. Name, check, the whole thing. Kara wanted a fight? I'd let her pick the arena. Saturday morning, I shaved, dressed in my best shirt, and walked into the Columbus HQ with my lawyer on one side and Margaret on the other. The cameras were already there, news vans, local radio, a crowd. Inside, the staff smiled. Congratulations, Mr. Woods. They handed me an oversized check with my name on it. $120,000. Click. Flash. History. I stepped to the mic. My daughter gave me this ticket on Father's Day, I said. It was a joke, but it turned out to be real. More flashes. She's claimed she's owed half. That's not how gifts work. That's not how family works. Pause. I've worked hard my entire life. Quietly. I raised my daughter alone, paid for her college, her wedding, her first house. I look directly at the camera, and when people show you who they are, believe them. I held up the check. This money won't change who I am, but it's going to change who I let in. Kara and Eric weren't there, but I knew they'd see it, and they'd hear me loud and clear. The story went everywhere. By Sunday morning, my face was on the front page of the Columbus Ledger, smiling like I'd just climbed Everest. They printed the oversized check in full color right beside the quote, "This money won't change who I am, but it will change who I let in." The phones didn't stop. Local news, radio, even a podcast wanted interviews. But I turned most of them down. The truth was already out, and besides, the people who needed to hear it had already heard it. Kara posted again that afternoon. Another video. Less mascara, more anger. I never said the ticket was just a gift. I said, clearly at dinner, that we'd split any winnings. He's rewriting history and trying to make me look like a thief. She even tagged the Ohio Lottery Commission, but the comments had shifted. Didn't you give him the ticket, though? He paid for it, didn't he? Even if you said split it, it's not a contract, hun. Her followers started pulling away. The sympathy was cracking. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just sat on my back porch with a cold drink and watched the sky turn orange over the maples. Margaret came by around 5. Wine? She asked, holding up a bottle. Out, please. We sat under Linda's old wind chimes, listening to them knock softly in the breeze. For a while we didn't speak. Then Margaret said, Do you think she'll ever apologize? I took a slow sip. No. I think she's still trying to figure out how she became the villain in a story she wrote. You've always been too soft with her. I know. You still love her. I do, but love doesn't mean blind. Margaret set her glass down. You know what I love? Seeing you like this? Calm, clear-eyed, not bleeding from every checkbook paper cut. I smiled. Feels good. That night, Kara called again. I let it ring. Then again. Then a text. Fine, you want it public? I'll go public. I deleted it without reading the rest. Monday brought something new, a letter from her attorney. Thinly veiled threats, legalese, more bluster. I forwarded it to mine. Later that week, the dispatch called, asking for a follow-up. Wanted a human angle. Only if we're talking about the cost of entitlement, I said. The reporter agreed. The piece ran Thursday under the headline, How a $2 lottery ticket split a family and freed a father. They quoted me plainly, I gave for years, quietly. And when I stopped giving, I became the villain. That says everything. I framed the article, hung it right beside my check in the office. By the weekend, the noise had settled. No more news vans, no more posts. Eric went quiet online. Kara locked her profiles. Their world was shrinking, mine was opening, and I hadn't spent a dime. Exactly 1 week after the ceremony, she showed up again. No warning, no text. Just the thump of car doors and the sharp tap of her heels on my front walk. This time, she came alone. No Eric, no performance makeup. Her sunglasses sat high on her head like she forgot they were there. She didn't knock. She opened the door like she still had a key, like this was still her place to be. Dad, she said, stepping inside, we need to talk, and this time you're going to listen. I was in the den sorting receipts. Not for tax purposes, those were already handled by the attorney I'd hired, but for closure. I'd started categorizing the last 10 years of financial records. Every cent I'd handed her and Eric, voluntarily or not. I didn't look up. You're trespassing, Kara. Oh, cut the drama, she snapped, marching into the room. I'm your daughter. Not legally relevant at the moment. She let out a breath through her teeth. Okay, fine. You want formality? We'll go formal. I spoke to another attorney. They said verbal agreements, especially with witnesses, can absolutely be binding. I turned a page. You gave me the ticket. That was witnessed too. You said very thoughtful. I did. I meant it. You also smiled. I looked at her then. Kara, if you think a smile constitutes a contract, you need a better lawyer. Her mouth twitched. Not a smile? Not quite anger. Something more brittle. You've turned this into a war, she said. And for what? Money? You have more than you'll ever spend. This was never about money, I said quietly. She folded her arms. Then what was it about? It was about the moment you laughed while handing me a $2 ticket, then gave a man who married into our family a $13,000 vacation. Paid for with money you stole from me. Eric's been there for us, for me. I stood up. She shut up. I raised you alone, I said, my voice low but steady. Paid for your school, your first car, your wedding. I gave when I had nothing to spare, and you stood in my home, my wife's home, and acted like I was some burden you couldn't wait to offload. She looked down at the floor. You don't understand what it's like to be married to someone successful. There are expectations, appearances. I stared at her, the words knocking around in my chest like hail. Appearances, I repeated. That's what this was for you. Kara didn't answer. She didn't need to. I sat back down, calmer than I felt. You want to sue me, Kara? Go ahead. Burn whatever bridges you've got left. Just know that every hearing will be public. Every bank statement, every receipt, every tuition bill I paid. You'd really humiliate your own daughter like that? No, I said. I'd simply respond. She looked around the room then, at the modest furniture, at the quiet walls, at the photo of Linda on the mantel. For a moment, her expression changed. Not guilt, not remorse, but a kind of recognition, like maybe she saw what she'd walked away from. I just wanted to be seen, she whispered. I closed the folder in front of me. You were, I said, for years. We stood in silence. Then she turned and walked out. No door slam, no threats, just her footsteps fading down the porch. I watched from the window as she got into her car and sat there for a long time, staring at the steering wheel like it held some kind of answer. Then she pulled away. I watched her taillights disappear, and for the first time, I let myself feel it. Not anger, not victory, but grief. Because despite everything, that was still my little girl. And watching her unravel her own life in real time wasn't satisfying. It was devastating, but I wouldn't stop her. Some lessons can't be taught. They have to be lived. Weeks passed, the lawyers went quiet. The internet did too. No more viral videos, no new betrayed daughter sob stories. Whatever public sympathy Kara had gained was draining fast. People had short memories when there was no fresh scandal to chew on. I kept to my rhythm. Morning coffee, a walk around the neighborhood, newspaper, calls with the financial planner I'd hired from Dayton, a man named Marcus who spoke like a farmer and worked like a hawk. This is legacy money, he said, and legacy money needs a fence, not a flag. I liked that. It stuck with me. We created a shell trust. I named it after Linda. Nothing fancy, just LW Holdings, but it meant something. The funds were structured to support charitable giving, long-term community investment, and a few projects I'd dreamed of for years but never had the means to start. One of them was Woods Auto Restoration, a small classic car shop in a Dayton industrial strip that had gone dark during COVID and never reopened. I bought the building, quietly, cash, no fanfare, hired 2 mechanics from the old union, paid them better than I ever got paid in my prime. I let my hands get dirty again. It was good for my soul. Then came the letter, not from Kara, from Eric, typed, formal, 3 pages long. It began with, Mr. Woods, I am writing independently of my wife. A good opener made him sound like a man with a conscience. The rest was less convincing. He wanted to clarify past misunderstandings, to de-escalate any remaining tension, and, most tellingly, to explore potential partnership opportunities leveraging your recent liquidity event. In other words, he wanted in. I tossed it in the trash, but I didn't stop there. Instead, I pulled out the thick envelope I'd started building weeks earlier. Inside, a full breakdown of every dollar I'd given them. Itemized, dated. Copies of checks, wire transfers, tuition invoices. A highlighted total. $267,640.71. I stapled Eric's letter on top and wrote 1 sentence in pen. This is what I've already given. The rest, I'm keeping. Then I mailed it to their home. No signature, no return address. Just a red stamp that read, paid in full. 2 days later, Kara showed up again. No fury this time, no speech rehearsed. She just stood on my porch with the envelope in her hand. You really kept track of everything? I nodded. I had to. I don't even remember half of these. I do. She opened the envelope, scanned a few of the pages. You even included the HVAC repairs? Those pipes didn't fix themselves. For a while, she just stood there. Then, softer than I expected, she asked, what would it take to start over? I looked at her face, older now than I remembered. Tired? Not broken, but maybe cracked around the edges. Not money, I said. She nodded, eyes wet. I know. I didn't say anything else. I just let the silence hold her for a moment. Then I stepped aside and opened the door. Just wide enough. She didn't stay long, just stepped inside, glanced around like it was both foreign and familiar, then sat quietly on the edge of the old sofa, same one she'd sprawled on during high school, complaining about geometry and cafeteria food. I sat across from her, arms folded, waiting. I read every page, she said finally. The check copies, the tuition, the down payment I forgot you made, even the grocery reimbursements. You said it was family money, I replied. That's what family money looks like. One person giving, the other forgetting. She flinched, not dramatically, just enough to let me know she heard it. I thought you were just old-fashioned, proud. I am. That's not what I meant. I know. She glanced down at her hands, twisting the envelope. It's weird. Growing up, I always felt like you didn't need anything from me. You were so solid. I waited. I think I started believing you didn't feel anything either. I felt everything, I said. I just didn't say much. You never told me no. I should have. A beat passed, then she said it. I'm sorry. It didn't hit me like a movie moment. No swelling music, no instant forgiveness. But it was real. For the first time in a long time, my daughter sounded like someone who saw the damage, not just the result. Why now? I asked. She swallowed. Because Eric's leaving. I blinked. Divorce? Not yet, but it's coming. We've been fighting for months. About the money, about the lawsuit, about me. She let out a breath. He says I humiliated him by making it all public, by not securing the asset before you claimed it. Asset, I said flatly. His word, not mine. I nodded. She looked up. I wanted to be the kind of woman who belonged in his world. Country clubs, designer kitchens, family photos on yachts. But I lost myself in it. And when the money ran out, the mask slipped. She gave a dry, bitter laugh. Turns out, I married someone who loved what I represented, not who I was. That happens. Is that what happened with you and me? I paused. You stopped seeing me once I had nothing left to give. She wiped her eyes. I think I wanted to become someone better than you. Not because you were bad, just small town, worn. I thought I could outrun that. Did you? No, she whispered. I just ran away from myself. We sat there in the quiet for a while, both of us staring at the same spot on the floor like it held the map back to something we'd lost. Finally, she stood, smoothed her shirt. Can I come by again? She asked. No talk of money. Just dinner, maybe? I cook Tuesdays, I said. Still make the mashed potatoes your mom loved. She nodded. I remember. At the door, she paused. I don't want your money, Dad. I know. I just don't want to be the villain anymore. Then stop acting like one. She gave a shaky smile, then left. After the door clicked shut, I sat in the quiet house and felt something small but significant shift. Not a reunion, a recalibration. Because forgiveness doesn't arrive all at once. Sometimes it sneaks in through the cracks. The first Tuesday dinner was awkward. I made meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans from the backyard. Simple. Honest. The kind of meal you serve when you're tired of pretending anything needs dressing up. She arrived 5 minutes early. No Herrick, no fancy bottle of wine, just a Tupperware of brownies and a soft, "Hey, Dad," that didn't try to fix anything before it started. We didn't talk about the ticket. We didn't talk about the lawsuit. We talked about Jake, her son, my grandson. He was struggling in math. She wasn't sure how to help. I offered to look at his homework sometime. She nodded, eyes grateful but cautious, like every gesture might be misunderstood. The next week, she brought lasagna. Still no Eric, no mention of him either. She just asked how the garage was coming. I told her about the '68 Mustang a retired vet had brought in. Said it was the car he'd proposed in back before Vietnam. We were rebuilding the engine, fixing the frame. I said it felt good, working on something that was never designed to be disposable. She smiled at that. That's you, Dad. What? You were never disposable. You were durable. It sounded like a compliment, but it also sounded like a realization. maybe one she'd come to too late. By the third dinner, she stayed after to help clean up, washed dishes without asking, dried her hands on the same towel Linda used to keep folded over the stove handle. "You never remarried," she said, drying a plate. "No." "Why not?" "I thought about it. No one felt like home after your mother." She nodded slowly. "I think I married someone who looked like home but didn't act like it." "Is that over?" "Emotionally, yes." She set the plate down. "Financially, we're untangling it." We didn't go deeper, didn't need to. But that night, she hugged me at the door. Not tightly, not like a daughter reclaiming lost years. More like someone trying to say, "I'm trying," in a language we'd both forgotten. And I let her. That Friday, Margaret called. "I see her car there lately." "Tuesday dinners," I said. "You okay with that?" "I'm not expecting miracles." "You expecting anything?" I paused. Just a chance to stop writing her off. Margaret was quiet a moment. "You always were too hopeful for your own good." "Better than never hoping at all." She sighed. "Well, if she screws it up again, I'll drive over and give her a piece of my mind." "I'll hold you to it." Tuesday became routine. No drama, no tension, just food, short updates, and a slow dismantling of the wall we'd both helped build. Brick by stubborn brick. I didn't mention the money, she didn't ask for it, and maybe that was the clearest sign things were shifting. I still kept my distance emotionally, like you do after an injury that's mostly healed, but still sensitive to pressure. But I didn't feel guarded, just cautious. The kind of caution that comes from knowing what pain really costs and how expensive second chances can be. By the fourth Tuesday, she brought Jake. I hadn't seen him in months, not since before the lottery, before the cruise nonsense, before the shouting started and everything cracked. He stood there on my porch like he wasn't sure if he was invited or just being dragged. "Hey, Grandpa," he said, hands in his pockets. "Hey, Jake, come in." He'd grown taller, lankier, voice deeper than I remembered. Wore a hoodie 2 sizes too big and shoes I wouldn't have been able to afford when I was his age. But his eyes, those were still the same. Quiet, watchful. Linda's eyes. Dinner was spaghetti, a safe choice. We ate mostly in silence, Jake focused on shoveling carbs like teenage boys do. I asked about school. He grunted. Kara scolded him. He offered a mumbled, "It's fine." I asked about math. He said, "Still sucks." I smiled. "Want to bring your homework next time?" "I used to be pretty good at that stuff." He shrugged. "Sure, whatever." Which in teenager means yes. After dinner, Kara washed dishes. Jake wandered into the living room and stared at the photo of Linda on the mantel. He tilted his head like he was trying to imagine her voice. "She was pretty," he said. "She'd have loved you." "She died before I was born, right?" "Yeah, you were the dream we had but didn't get to meet." He looked at me. "Did you guys ever fight?" I laughed. "All the time. But we never disrespected each other, that was the difference." He nodded slowly. "Mom and Eric, they yelled a lot." I didn't respond, didn't need to. Later that night, after they left, I found a folded sheet of notebook paper on the couch. Jake's handwriting. A math problem, half solved. Probably slipped out of his backpack. Or maybe not. I solved it. Left it by the door, under a sticky note. "Try again next week. Show your work." Next Tuesday, he was back. Hoodie, homework. A different kind of quiet. The good kind. We worked through fractions while Kara made salad. She didn't hover, didn't interrupt, just let us talk. "This makes more sense when you explain it," Jake said. "Math's like family," I said. "It's all about balance. You give too much on one side, it breaks." He didn't say anything, but he looked like he understood. Later that week, I got a call from Marcus, the financial planner. "I've finished mapping the charitable fund," he said. "Still planning to launch the community grants?" "Yep." "Want to put your name on it?" "No," I said. "Call it the Second Chances Fund." There was a pause on the line, then, "That's a good name." We opened it quietly. No press release, no ribbon cutting, just 3 local scholarships and a one-time grant for a food bank Kara had volunteered at in college. Back before the money, before the entitlement. I didn't tell her. Not yet. Some things feel better unspoken, like trust when it starts to return, or pride when it stops needing an audience. By the 7th Tuesday, it didn't feel strange anymore. Kara knocked before coming in. Jake brought his own notebook. They no longer arrived tense or left early. It wasn't warm exactly, not yet, but it was human. That counted for something. Dinner that night was pork roast, buttered carrots, and cornbread. Jake ate 3 servings. Kara even offered to set the table. It felt almost like the old days, except quieter, more deliberate, like we were rebuilding something from ruins without calling it that out loud. After we ate, I stepped outside to water the garden. I was halfway down the row of tomatoes when I heard the screen door creak and soft footsteps behind me. "Need a hand?" she asked. I passed her the hose. She watered like someone who hadn't done it in years. Awkward, a little impatient. Still, she didn't complain when the mist sprayed her shoes. She just adjusted and kept going. For a while, we worked in silence. Then she said, "Did you mean to leave that scholarship in Mom's name?" I did. It meant a lot. I know. She watered a little more, then paused. "There's something else," she said. I turned the spigot off. She shifted from one foot to the other, the way she used to when she was nervous about something. A failed test, a dent in the car. "I've been interviewing," she said. "Real jobs, not consulting fluff, not stuff Eric lined up. Something I found myself." "That's good," I said. "Where at?" "A nonprofit, homeless reentry program. Admin assistant for now, but it's honest." "It suits you," I said. "You used to love helping people." She smiled, surprised I remembered. "I start Monday," she said. "The pay's not amazing." "It's yours, though," she nodded. "Yeah, it is." There was pride in her voice, but also fear. Fear of not having the cushion, of failing in front of the people she used to impress. "You'll be fine," I said. "It's not about the title, it's about not flinching when you look in the mirror." She blinked fast. I haven't done that in a while. Inside, Jake was watching TV. Something loud and ridiculous, full of explosions and bad jokes. The kind of thing boys his age are supposed to love. We stepped back in, wiped our feet, and she turned to me again. "Eric doesn't know I'm here," she said. "Not just tonight, any night." "Is that safe?" "Yeah, he's not violent, just cruel. With words, with silence, with control." "I see." "He filed for separation. Blamed it all on me. Said I embarrassed him publicly. That I weaponized victimhood." His words. I leaned against the counter. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. "I spent years defending him, and he never once defended me." "You don't owe him your life." "I know that now." I poured her a glass of tea. The good kind. The kind I used to buy when money wasn't tight. Linda's favorite. She sipped it slowly. "I'm scared, Dad." "I know." She set the glass down. "But I'm more scared of going back to who I was." We didn't hug, still not there. But she put a hand on my arm before she left. Not needing, not pleading, just present. "Thanks for Tuesday," she said. "You're welcome." I watched them pull out of the driveway. Her taillights disappeared into the dusk, but this time they didn't feel like a goodbye. They felt like the beginning of something steady, earned and slow. On the second Tuesday in August, she showed up with a manila envelope. She held it like it weighed 100 pounds, even though I could tell from the way the corners sagged it wasn't full. She stood on my porch a second longer than usual, then knocked. Jake wasn't with her this time. When I opened the door, she didn't smile. "I finalized the papers," she said, holding out the envelope. I stepped aside. She walked in and sat at the dining table without waiting to be invited, just like her mother used to when she had something heavy to say. I sat down across from her. Divorce? I asked. She nodded, setting the envelope down between us. Separation first. Divorce in 90 days unless one of us contests it. He won't. She pushed the envelope toward me, then pulled it back. I didn't come to talk about that, though. All right. She reached into her purse and pulled out a smaller envelope, this one creased and soft at the corners, clearly touched more than once. She handed it to me like it might break. Inside, a folded check, made out to me. For 13,602 vima. The cruise, she said, voice low. With interest. I looked at the check, not because I needed the money, but because I needed to see her handwriting again. I taught her how to sign her name when she was 6. We practiced on the back of junk mail until she got it right. I don't want it, I said, setting it on the table. I need to give it, she replied. You don't owe me. I do, not for the money, for the assumption. She looked up. I believed I was entitled to your help, that you owed it to me, that it wasn't generosity, it was expected. You were raised with a lot, I said carefully, and I never showed you what it cost me to give it. I didn't ask, she said, and you didn't offer, but I should have seen it anyway. I should have seen you. The silence settled between us again. Not tense, but thick. Honest. I can't undo what I did, she said. The lies, the posts, the legal letter. I nodded. But I can start giving back. Not just with a check. She pulled something else from her purse. A brochure. Color printed, folded neatly. A small nonprofit. Sunrise House. Transitional housing for women and kids. They're expanding, she said. I've been helping with grant writing, volunteer admin stuff. They want to bring me on full time. Is that what you want? It is, she said. They don't care where I used to vacation. They care whether I show up. I smiled. Sounds like the right people. I think so. She reached for her glass. Tea again. Always tea now. There's something else, she added, almost nervous. All right. I want to start giving again, she said. Financially, with what I have. Little things. Groceries for the older woman next door. A small recurring donation to the food bank. She looked at me. Do I have your blessing? I laughed. Soft, real. Kara, you don't need my permission to become a better person. I guess I just need someone to believe it's possible. I do, I said. Because you're doing it. She nodded, eyes glassy. When she stood to leave, I didn't reach for the check. Neither did she. It just sat there on the table. Simple enough. At the door, she turned. Dad, do you ever wish I'd been more like Mom? I shook my head. No, I said. I just wish you'd remembered more of her when things got hard. She smiled, sad and full. Me too. Then she left, her footsteps steady this time. No storm behind her? Just the quiet sound of someone walking into her own life for the first time. And I sat at the table with the check between us, untouched. Not because I couldn't cash it, but because I didn't need to anymore. The day the money hit my account, I didn't celebrate. There was no champagne, no new car in the driveway, no private jet, no grand shopping spree. Just a ping from the bank, a long string of zeros, and a quiet cup of coffee on the back porch while the neighborhood slowly woke up around me. What I felt wasn't joy. It was gravity, weight, like carrying something heavy that had finally arrived after a long journey. And now I had to decide what to do with it. I had a plan, of course. Marcus and I had mapped out the trust, the retirement annuities, the emergency funds, the taxes. He called it fortress-level safety. I called it peace of mind. But even with all the systems in place, one question still haunted me. What do I owe the world now that I'm free? I didn't owe Kara anything financially. Not anymore. Not legally. Not morally. But the human debt, that was different. And not just with her. I started thinking about people like Mr. Chen, who ran the corner store and had let me buy bread on credit more than once when I was short before payday. About Mrs. Patterson down the street, who still watered her roses by hand every morning and used the same $5 bill 3 times because she couldn't remember she already gave it to the mailman as a tip. About the high school kid, Daniel, who worked part-time at the gas station and always asked about my day like it mattered. They weren't flashy, they weren't loud, but they'd carried me quietly through the lean years, through the loneliness, through the shame I never said out loud. So I started writing checks, small ones, personal, no foundation names, no press. Mr. Chen's store got a new freezer. I paid the invoice anonymously. The delivery guy said nothing, just dropped it off with a receipt that read, paid in full. Mrs. Patterson's mortgage? Gone. Cleared in one transfer. She cried so hard her glasses fogged up and hugged me like she thought I'd vanish when she let go. Daniel? I bought him a used Honda Civic in perfect condition. Left the keys and a card on the counter. For the one who always asks how I'm doing. Each act lifted something off me I didn't know I was still carrying. And every Tuesday, Kara came for dinner. Jake, too. The math help turned into college planning. I walked him through interest rates, loan comparisons, career fields. He asked smart questions. He took notes. One night after dinner, he looked up from his notebook. Grandpa? Yeah? You ever think about teaching again? I raised an eyebrow. Me? Teach? Yeah, like not in a school, but kids who don't have dads. Or anyone. You're good at explaining stuff. I didn't answer right away, but something about the way he said it, soft, matter of fact, stuck with me. The next week, I made a call. There was a local youth center near the edge of town. I'd driven past it 100 times, but never gone inside. They ran tutoring sessions, job training, summer workshops for kids with nowhere else to be. I showed up with my resume, what little there was, and a donation check folded in my back pocket, just in case they needed convincing. The director was younger than I expected, sharp, kind, wore sneakers and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. I told him who I was, told him what I could offer. Told him what I wasn't looking for, recognition, control, anything more than a couple afternoons a week with kids who needed someone steady. He looked me in the eye and said, "When can you start?" And just like that, I had a new rhythm. Tuesdays were still for family. But Thursdays? Those were for the boys who hadn't been given much of one. Kids like Tony, who never met his father but could take apart a small engine, blindfolded. Or Ramon, who said he wanted to be a mechanic because he liked fixing things that no one else thought were worth saving. I taught them more than torque and wrenches. I taught them what it looked like to show up, week after week, even when no one asked. The first Thanksgiving after the lottery win was quiet. Not lonely, not empty, just mine. No place to be, no pretense. No family dinner where my presence was more of a formality than a welcome. Just a warm house, a cup of black coffee, and 2 pies in the oven. Pecan and pumpkin, the way Linda used to make them. I still had her old index cards. She'd written, "Don't forget the nutmeg" in the margins like it was a joke, though she was always dead serious about nutmeg. Every time I made her pies, it felt like talking to her through flour. Around 11, I drove the pecan pie over to Mrs. Patterson's house. She was out front, fussing with her porch decor, trying to tape a bundle of cornstalks to a railing that clearly wanted nothing to do with tape. She waved when she saw me. "Thanksgiving delivery?" she asked. "Special edition," I said, handing her the box. "Handle with care." She opened it halfway, peeked inside, and touched her chest. "Oh, Stephen, you remembered." "You remembered my birthday last year," I said. "Consider us even." She hugged me so tightly my back popped. Said something about inviting me in, but I declined. Told her I had somewhere else to be. The second pie rode shotgun with me to the youth center. Tony and Ramon were already there, surrounded by soda cans and half-inflated balloons. The director had tried to make it festive with folding tables, string lights, and a box of last year's napkins that read, "Give thanks." Elijah sat by the wall, silent as ever, headphones in, head down. We didn't do turkey. We had pizza, orange soda, and chips in plastic bowls. But no one complained. No one fought. Everyone had a chair. I cut the pie, passed plates. Tony asked what Thanksgiving was like when I was his age. Louder, I said. And the food was worse. They laughed. After cleanup, we played a few hands of spades. I let Ramon win once. Only once. Elijah said 4 words the entire time, but one of them was thanks. On the drive home, I passed the Kroger near Spring Street and saw Kara in the parking lot. Her trunk was open, a roast chicken, a pre-made stuffing tray, a frozen apple pie. Nothing fancy. No carts overflowing like the holidays from 5 years ago when she hosted to impress people who barely remembered their last names. She looked tired. Not worn out tired. Working tired. I watched from across the lot. She never saw me. At 5:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. Hey, Dad. Jake and I are doing something small. Nothing big. Chicken, mashed potatoes, some store pie. If you're around, we'd love to set a third plate. No guilt, no pressure, just the ask. I knocked at 6:01. Jake answered. Hey, Grandpa, Mom lit the green beans on fire. Excellent, I said. Charred is traditional. Kara laughed from the kitchen. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, old heater rattling in the corner. But it smelled like garlic, rosemary, and something I hadn't felt in years. Welcome. The table was set with chipped plates and cloth napkins that didn't match. No centerpiece, no performance. We passed food, told stories. Jake mentioned a prank involving fake vomit and the principal's chair. I told them about the time I tried to deep fry a turkey and nearly took out the fence. After dinner, Kara washed dishes. I dried. The way we did when Linda was alive, when Kara was 13 and hated math but loved being near us. You know, she said, I used to think the size of a Thanksgiving table meant something. Bigger meant you'd made it. And now? Now, I think it's about who comes back to sit with you, no matter what happened the year before. Jake hugged me before I left. Not polite, not quick. The kind of hug that says, you're mine and I'm yours. Kara walked me to the door. She didn't say goodnight, she said thank you. And for the first time in a long time, I believe she wasn't saying it because she had to. She said it because she meant it. The day I put the check on the wall, it felt less like a trophy and more like a grave marker. I framed it. Just the copy, not the real one. The oversized ceremonial thing the lottery commission handed me, big as a banner and just as ridiculous. In bold print, $120,000. Underneath my name, sharp and awkward in their official font. I hung it in my garage office. The one at the back of the restoration shop, with scuffed floors and a coffee maker that wheezed when it brewed. I didn't hang it to brag. I hung it to remember. Remember the worst dinner of my life. Remember the smile on my daughter's face when she tossed that $2 ticket like a joke. Remember what it cost to become the kind of man who finally said no. But most of all, I hung it to remember that money didn't save me. Boundaries did. It had been nearly a year since the win. Jake was thriving. Picked up a part-time job at the local bookstore saving for college. He still came by on Tuesdays, sometimes even without Kara. We'd work through applications, scholarships, essays. The last one he wrote was titled The Math of Forgiveness. I didn't edit a word. Kara was still with the nonprofit, Sunrise House. She'd worked her way up to assistant program director. She stopped posting pictures of wine tastings and started posting volunteer drives. It was the kind of shift you don't fake, the kind of change that leaves fingerprints. I watched her struggle with humility. It looked good on her. Sometimes she'd call on Thursday nights, just to talk. Sometimes she wouldn't. And that was okay too. Eric never reached out again. The legal noise evaporated months ago. I heard through Margaret that he'd moved to Chicago. Took a job at a bigger firm. Rumors swirled that he was dating someone younger. With money. Good luck to her. As for me, I'd kept the shop running. 3 mechanics now, 2 apprentices. We took on jobs no one wanted, rusted frames, busted axles, cars that looked more like tetanus traps than machines. We fixed them, one part at a time. The local high school sent kids over to intern. I started a monthly skills day at the youth center. We taught basics, brake pads, oil changes, even how to read a parts manual. One Saturday, a boy named Marcus said, "I want to be like you." I smiled. "Better than me." He shrugged. "You show up. That's rare." He was right. I used to think legacy was what you left behind in a will. Now I think it's what you leave behind in people. One Tuesday, Kara came by early. She let herself in, knocked first, always now, and brought coffee. She didn't say much at first, just sat on the porch with me, watching leaves scatter across the lawn like the wind was teaching them to let go. Then she said, "I visited Mom's grave." I looked over, waited. "She's on the east side near the slope with the dogwoods." "I know." I told her about everything, about Eric, about the lottery, about the lies. I nodded. I asked her if I was still her daughter. She whispered. That one hit deep. Deeper than I wanted it to. She'd have said yes, I told her. Even after everything? Especially after. She set the coffee down. I think I finally believed that. We sat for a while longer, no rush, just quiet. Then she asked, "Do you ever think about selling this place? Moving, doing something new?" I shook my head. This place saved me. From what? From forgetting who I am. She didn't argue. That night, after they left, I took the check down off the wall, set it against the far shelf behind some old toolboxes. The frame creaked a little when I laid it flat. I dusted off the spot where it had hung. Then I nailed up a new photo. Just a printout from Jake's last school project. Me and him under the hood of a '72 El Camino. We both looked greasy, tired, and proud. The caption in marker said, "This is what showing up looks like." It was crooked. Perfectly so. In February, I finally took the vacation Linda and I used to talk about. Not the cruise to Santorini. She hated boats. Not Paris either. She always said she didn't trust any city where the bread didn't come sliced. No, we talked about the Pacific coast, Oregon, gray skies, big water. Those misty mornings you could smell in your bones. So I went. I rented a cabin just outside Cannon Beach. Nothing luxurious, just wood walls, a gas stove, and windows that opened toward the water. It rained the first 3 days straight, and I sat by the fireplace with a pile of old books, a bottle of scotch, and a notebook I didn't plan to write in, but did anyway. I wrote letters to Linda, to Jake, to Kara. Not because anything was ending, just because I finally had the time to say what I hadn't. Linda's was the hardest. You wouldn't believe what happened, love. I held it together. Barely. She broke my heart. But I didn't break. Not completely. You were right. The day would come when silence became cruelty. So I spoke. I said no. I learned how to mean it. Jake's was easier. You're going to do just fine, kid. Better than fine. You've got a brain, a heart, and now you know what integrity looks like. It doesn't wear a tie, it wears old boots and shows up anyway. Cars came slow. You were my girl, still are. You forgot for a while, but I think you remember now. I do too. I never stopped hoping you'd come back. I just stopped letting that hope ruin me. I didn't send them. Just folded each letter into the back of the notebook, tucked it away like a time capsule. The beach was cold, and I liked it that way. I'd wake early, walk the shoreline with a travel mug in hand, wave to dogs chasing driftwood and couples wrapped in windbreakers. No one knew my name. It felt like freedom. On the 4th morning, my phone buzzed. Kara. I answered. "Hey," she said. "We're putting together a community grant dinner next month. For the fund. 1 year mark? People wanted to know if you'd be there." I leaned on the porch railing, stared at a stretch of gray sky where water met cloud and nothing else mattered. "I'll be there," I said. "Do you want to speak?" No, she laughed. That's what I told them. We talked a bit more about Jake's school plans. The youth center, the cold front moving in. Then she said, I've started saving. For what? Nothing specific, just in case. I want Jake to see that his mom doesn't spend what she didn't earn. That's good. It's harder than I thought, she admitted. Learning restraint after being handed everything for years. Restraint's a muscle, I said. You build it by using it. Before we hung up, she said, Thank you, again, for everything. I knew what she meant. For the silence, for the boundaries, for the second chance that wasn't guaranteed but given anyway. Back home, the Grant dinner was held in a converted library downtown. They strung up fairy lights, folded linen napkins, passed out cheap sparkling cider like it was champagne. Kara stood on stage with a small group from Sunrise House. She wore a black dress that didn't look expensive. She didn't over-rehearse her speech. She thanked donors, named no names. Quoted her mother, Success is who still shows up when you have nothing left to offer but yourself. Jake sat beside me. He nudged me at that line. Grandma said that? He whispered. I nodded. He smiled. After the event, a few people approached to shake my hand. Someone asked about the lottery. Someone else thanked me for the job training program. I smiled, answered politely. Let Kara take the spotlight. Outside, the wind had turned sharp. I pulled my coat tight, watched Jake run ahead toward the car. Kara walked beside me. Not talking, just walking. When we reached the lot, she paused. I don't want the money, she said, out of nowhere. I know. I just want the family back. I looked at her. Really looked. You can't have the old one, I said. But you're building something better. We stood there a moment longer under the street lamp glow. Then she nodded and followed Jake. And I let them go ahead. Not because I felt left behind, but because they were finally walking towards something I didn't have to hold together anymore. Spring came late. The trees on my block stood bare into April, like they didn't quite trust the season. I got it. Even after everything had settled, after the lawsuits had faded, after the noise quieted, after forgiveness started feeling less like a performance and more like truth, I still walked around with a kind of emotional limp. You learn to carry it, but you don't forget how you got it. Jake got accepted into Ohio State's engineering program. He texted me the news at 2:04 a.m. I read it the next morning while the coffee brewed, stared at the words like they were in another language. He'd done it. Not because of privilege, not because someone greased the way. He did it because he worked, because he stayed steady, because he showed up, just like I'd always hoped he would. I called him that night. Proud of you, kid, I said. Means more coming from you, he said. I knew you'd understand what it took. I do. He paused. I don't know if I'm scared or excited. Probably both. That's how you know you're not faking it. We threw him a party in my backyard. Nothing grand. Just a grill, paper plates, neighbors, coworkers, and enough potato salad to fill a wheelbarrow. Kara made a slideshow. Jake groaned, but he watched the whole thing. Later, when the guests had trickled out, he found me by the porch. I got you something. You better not have. He handed me a letter in a plain white envelope. It's not money, just words. I know those count more with you anyway. I read it alone that night, sitting by the kitchen table while the moonlight poured in. Grandpa, you showed me what it looks like to love people when they're hard to love. You set a standard I didn't understand until I saw how easy it would have been to give up on us, but you didn't. You stayed. You held the line. And you taught me to do the same. I'll carry it forward. Love, Jake. I folded the letter carefully and slid it into Linda's old cookbook, tucked behind her pecan pie recipe, right next to a grocery list she once wrote in pink ink. It felt right there. Jake left 2 weeks later. We didn't cry. We just stood in the driveway and hugged like we knew time was speeding up. You'll call? I asked. Every Sunday. And he did. Kara kept coming to dinner. We didn't keep score. She didn't bring apologies anymore, just groceries, new recipes, stories from work, the things that fill silence in the healthiest ways. She laughed easier, wore simpler clothes, started staying late just to sit on the porch. I used to think peace was a reward, she said one night. Something you got after you'd won the fight. But maybe it's just the absence of pretending. I think peace is what shows up when you stop running from who you used to be. She looked over. I ran far. You walked back. That was enough. Autumn came early this year. The leaves didn't wait. By mid-September, the oaks on Pelham Avenue were already shedding like they were in a hurry to start over. I stood on the porch one morning, mug in hand, watching the wind spin the first gold leaf across my sidewalk like it had somewhere to be. Jake called that afternoon. "Got a minute?" he asked. "For you, always." He'd found a co-op placement, small engineering firm near campus. Paid enough to help with books and meals. "They actually care if I show up," he said. "I like that." "That's called a job," I told him. "Welcome to the club," he laughed. "Thanks, Grandpa, for setting the bar high." "Just show up and mean it." "Every time," he said. That night I made chili. Kara came by with cornbread. We ate on the porch, no TV, no noise, just wind, warmth, and the sound of someone learning to live without apology. "I passed a bakery on the way here," she said. "Had a sign in the window. Hiring, no experience required, just a willingness to learn." I smiled. Good motto. I thought so too. She stirred her chili. "You ever think about retiring?" she asked. "Already did. Then opened a garage." "I mean retiring. Not yet. There's still more to build." She nodded. "I think I'm going to take a vacation," she said. "Real one. Just me and Jake. Before he's too old to want to travel with his mom." "Where to?" "He wants to see the ocean." "Pacific?" "Yeah." She didn't know that's where I'd gone after everything blew up, that I'd walked the beaches alone and wrote her letters I never sent. I didn't say that, just nodded. "It's a good place," I said. Quiet, honest. "Sounds perfect." We finished dinner and cleared the plates. She kissed my cheek before she left. It wasn't awkward anymore, it was just love. I keep things simpler now, fewer errands. Slower mornings. I spend more time on the back porch watching the world spin without needing to control it. The garage runs itself these days. Tony's managing, Ramon's training new kids. I still stop in once a week. Mostly just to be there. They always have a cup ready. My account is still full, but I've stopped checking it like it owes me anything. The number means less than it ever did, because peace, it turns out, doesn't have a dollar amount. It has a rhythm. I found mine. I still think about that ticket sometimes, the one she tossed at me like a joke. The one that changed everything and also revealed what needed to change. The irony is not lost on me. A $2 gesture bought with stolen money gave me the clarity I needed to finally draw the line. She thought I'd laugh. Instead, I woke up, and I stayed awake. Last week, I cleaned out the hall closet. Found old photos. Kara's drawings from grade school. A Father's Day card she made when she was 8. Inside, in purple marker, "You're the strongest man I know." I sat down on the floor and held that card a long time. Still do sometimes. Not because I believe it fully, but because she does again. And maybe that's the real ending. Not the lottery, not the lawsuit, not even the forgiveness. Just this moment, quiet enough, alive. I close my eyes and picture it. A porch, a breeze, the scent of earth and memory, and one more chair. Empty, but waiting.